Hello everyone, and a warm welcome to Bishopsgate Institute, all of you here in the room and everyone who's joining us online. Lunchtime concerts and music have a long history here at the Institute. You should have gotten a digital program note with your tickets, where you can find out a bit more about the history that stretches back to the Second World War with Dame Myra Hess's concerts at the National Gallery. If you would like to support these free concerts, then please have your contactless card ready when you leave the room and tap it on over there for a £3 donation, or you can do so online as well. But today's concert is my great pleasure to introduce one of my favorite singers in London at the moment, who has prepared an excellent program in reaction to our extensive feminist and women's history collections. So please welcome Sarah Parkin and Maya-Leigh Rosenwasser.
Whether this was conscious or not, her dedication to social justice can be seen even in the text of this piece, as the text is from a poem by the known, most likely lesbian poet, Sappho. Also, just another thing to note is that all of the composers that you're going to hear today were trained classical pianists, whether that's young virtuosos or child prodigies. the piano as their prime instrument.
So now we're going to switch tacks completely and go all the way back to the 1500s and perform a lute song by Francesca Caccini, who was pretty talented. She was quite a prolific composer, lutenist, singer, and poet. So I guess we have some work to do on upping our skills. One of her greatest achievements was that she was the court composer in Medici and was the highest paid musician in the Medici court by the age of 27. So again, a lot to aspire to. Very little of her music survives. However, she was a prolific song composer and composed a lot to her own texts, which we presume this is one of her own texts. So this is C'amore sia nudo, and it is a poem on the god of love, little Cupid, and it says, some say that Cupid may be blind, some say that he may run around naked and hide and be a little imp and pull his bow and let it land wherever he likes. But this would be a deceitful conceit to say, a vanita. In actual fact, he does some pretty good work. He knows exactly what he's doing, and he's trying to figure out the best for you. A verita, this is the truth. I don't know about all of you, but Maya and I have had to sort of become a little bit more professional in different skill sets over lockdown, and so Maya obviously has learned how to play the lute for you all today, which she will perform on piano. C'amore sia nudo e pur con l'ali al tergo, stia sotto il cielo e non procuri albergo e vanità, ma che per gli occhi egli dicenna al petto ed ivi posi ed ivi abbia ricetto e verità e che sia cieco e che non hai rividi, uvi per coda e così largo tiri e vanità, ma qu'apre il guardo e senza alcuna venda e pigli mira e quindi largo tienda e verità et il mio so che se io vien ch'io nieghi, che a suoi fier giochi questo colui pieghi e vanità, ma s'io dirò che n'amorose tenebre e tardo darsi e tarderomi sempre e verità Thank you. So, as most of you are likely aware, this is Maya's and mine first performance, really, since lockdown with a live audience. So thank you so much for coming. But this does mean that we are so excited that you're here that there will be a couple of points of audience participation. So let's get our Guess Who composer hats on. The next four songs are German texts, typically set by they're learned, in conservatoires when you're an undergrad, quite young. Everyone learns certain settings of these songs. And so we're going to list you these pieces and ask you to volunteer any names of composers that you think may have set these famous texts. Are you ready? You sound really enthusiastic. This is going to go really well. So the first one is Das Veilchen. Anyone? Das Veilchen? Mozart, yes! 10 points to you. The second, this is by Duchess Anna Amalia, who married into her duchess title, and when her husband passed away, leaving her an infant son, she ran the duchy while her son was growing up as a widow. And then as soon as her son came of age, she retired and became a devoted patron to the arts, creating her own library, which now holds over 1 million records and is still standing. The second is An den Mond, with a poem by Hölty. This may not be the exact An den Mond poem, because he wrote a couple that most people know, but it's quite a beautiful setting. Anyone? Schubert. It's always a good guess with Schubert. Excellent. Well done. So this setting we are going to sing is by Juliane Benda, and one thing I really liked about her story was that she grew up in an artistic family, as most of these composers did, but she also married a court composer, and he decided that she was one of the most emotional singers he had ever heard. He fell completely in love with her, and he decided to profess his love after he performed one of his own pieces in a concert. It's never happened to me. And then we have Sehnsucht nach Italien, which is the Kennst du das Land, or also known as some of the Mignon texts, which actually, this is a slightly trick question, because there are several composers who have set this text. Any guesses? Come on. No. Good guess. Schubert again, yes. The Schubert lady. Schumann. I don't think there's, no, not this one. But think later, anyone? Slightly more romantic? The most famous setting is by Hugo. Yes, very good. And also Liszt, Tchaikovsky, and Berg set this one. We are going to do the Fanny Hensel setting, and everyone also knows Fanny Hensel by her maiden name, Fanny Mendelssohn, from the Mendelssohn family. So she was relatively underpublished in her time. She did publish several pieces, but a lot of them had to be done under her brother's name. And she was pretty much strictly forbidden from pursuing music as a profession by her family, although she did marry a lovely artist who was very encouraging. And then last but not least, we have one of my favorite poems by Friedrich Rückert, Liebst du Schönheit? Any guesses? It starts with an M. Mahler, yes, well done. But we're going to go slightly earlier than Mahler, and this is a setting by Clara Schumann, who was actually really famous in her time, and her husband, Robert Schumann, have you ever heard of him? Yeah. So who was also a composer, was virtually unknown and wildly insecure, and she spent a lot of her life and used a lot of her influence to promote him in her artistic circles, all the while composing, all the while performing. She performed a lot of his pieces, and managing a household of about 7 children. So she was a busy lady. So the first one we're going to do is Das Veilchen, and this story is about a little violet living just hanging out in a field, and then all of a sudden he sees this beautiful young shepherdess come along, and he decides, oh, her footsteps are so light, her song is so lovely, I am in love with her, if only we could be together. And then of course the shepherdess doesn't notice him, steps on him, crushes him, and as he dies, he sits there and goes, oh, I got to touch the sole of her foot. den Schritt und Muttern sind daher, die Wiese her und sang. Ach, denkt das Weilchen, wär ich nur die schönste Blume der Natur. Ach, nur ein kleines Weilchen, bis ich das Liebchen abgepickt und an die Rosenwasser gedrückt. Ach nun, ein Viertelstündchen lang. Ach, das Mädchen kam und nicht in Acht das Veilchen nahm. Trat das arme Veilchen und sank und starb und freu sich noch. Und sterb ich denn, so sterb ich doch durch sie, zu ihren Füßen noch.
So the next piece is Andemand, and Andemand is a song begging the moon to veil its bright light, as it reminds the singer too much of their bride who has sadly passed away.
Was schaust du so hell und klar durch diese Apfelbäume? Feinstein, Freund, selig war und träumte süße Träume. Silberglanz und Schimmer texts are from Goethe, the Wilhelm Meister epic novel. And if you don't know the background, really quickly, it's about a young waif called Mignon who is taken from her native land in Italy by a circus master who's, finding himself, and kidnaps her and holds her against her will, but then she has this strange attachment to him and sort of fatherly type of love or romantic type of love. So the problematic story aside, in this text she's asking, do you know the land where the lemons bloom and the lemon trees bloom and the oranges glisten and the heaven is shining down? And she's talking of her native Italy, and she's saying how she wants to go there with her beloved.
So for this one, the text is quite short, so I'm just going to read it to you from my phone. If you love for beauty, do not love me. Love the sun, for it has golden hair. If you love for youth, do not love me. Love the spring, which is young each year. If you love for wealth, do not love me. Love the mermaid, who has many beautiful pearls. But if you love for love, then do love me, and I will love you forevermore.
And now for something completely different. We are going all the way to South America, to Brazil, for a lighter piece from Francesca, also known as Chiquinha Gonzaga. She had a really interesting life. She wasn't very highly regarded by the music circles in Rio de Janeiro at her time. She would have been active at the very beginning of the 20th century. She wrote quite a lot of vaudeville, theater music, waltzes, polkas, tangos, like little ditties, those kinds of things. She also had, her mother was of mixed heritage. She was of indigenous and Brazilian descent, and her father was in the army. She had an arranged marriage when she was about 16 to a naval officer, but he was quite abusive, and so she left. Her father renounced her. She left with one son out of 3 children that she had. So she married again to an engineer, but she tired quickly of his extramarital affairs, so she left again. And he kept their daughter, so again she had to leave with just one son, and raised him as a single mother, teaching piano and composing in the early 20th century in Brazil. Just incredible. Slightly less incredible and maybe a bit strange is that she fell in love with a boy of 16 years of age when she was maybe 36 years older than him. And as she was aware this probably wouldn't be accepted, she adopted him as her son, officially, and they moved to Lisbon until he became a bit older and they could come back without scandal, but this was kept quite private until after. Either way, she's a very interesting character, so look her up for sure. This is a bolero, something a bit faster with a lot of dance rhythms, and we have 4 verses, and we have the story of a Spanish girl from Castilla, who is Castilian, who comes across a couple of boys while she's in America, presumably South America, while she's in America, and all of a sudden there's this one boy, and their breasts, just in terms of hearts, their hearts just speak to each other, and their eyes meet, and eventually he asks her consent to marry him. And in the 3rd verse we have the wedding, and her mother is there, and they're in the church, and there's a fat priest reciting things in Latin, and she's very, very happy. And then we come to the 4th verse, and some years on, and they've been married for quite a while, and she says, honestly, I regret it. And this is, again, an audience participation number. Aren't we excited? So, in the middle of between each verse, we're going to say, "Ai que broma!" all together. Let's practice it. "Ai que broma!" which means, "Oh, what fun!" in Portuguese. Gosto
And she is a really prolific composer because her husband must have not been a very great marriage because he was quite restrictive on her performance, on whether she would perform, could perform. So she composed a lot. So yeah, that's Amy Beach. And after that, we are playing Reflects by Blunder, who I would say she was a pioneer of new music. I think you could hear that, or you will hear that in the harmonies. They're quite contemporary sounding. I think a lot of people would think this was written later than it was. Actually, when was it written? Good question. I think it was...
I can't remember, sorry.
No. Well, I will Google it. Okay.
Child
So just to talk a little bit about the poem, rather than give you a direct translation, because at some point French poetry gets quite image-based, we never really quite know where they're going with it. There's just some images to look out for. So it's called reflet, so reflection. There's a lot of mention of songe, dreams, things that pertain to water and like the reflection into the surface of the water, and her dreams at the same time. So the last piece we're performing for you today is the only piece on our program by a living composer, which is another distinct passion of mine, is performing works by living composers. A fellow Canadian who was actually one of my colleagues at the University of Toronto a few years ago by the name of Cecilia Livingston. And this song is based on the sea witch Calypso, who held Odysseus or Homer on her island for, I believe it was 7 years, as Cecilia says, against his will, but not really, on his way home to see Penelope, to find Penelope. And it's about waiting, it's about wanting him to come back, and the powers that be, like the gods because they were all fighting against the gods, really, and the will of the gods. And has a lot of Chopin-esque ornaments in the piano and a lot of jazz influence at the same time. So, yes, calypso.
Thank you to Sarah Parkin and Maya-Leigh Rosenwasser. That was brilliant, wasn't it? Please join us next week again for something entirely different when storyteller Bird Radio, with the help of flutes and electronics, will tell a story of East End criminal mastermind Arthur Harding, whose autobiographical transcripts we have here in the archive as well. Do wave your contactless on the way out and have a very nice day. Thank you for coming.